One Matrix movie, a two Matrix movie, a three Matrix movies.
I'm winning. It's a race.
That was my count for
It's a race. And Rowan Atkinson is the Count of Chocolate. Count Chocula.
No, you learned something new.
Well, you know what? He could easily be a Count Chocula. But I'll tell you, welcome to the Hungover Podcast, episode 120, maybe 130 at this point. I lost track, but I'll find out, and I'll screw up the intro title screen to have episode 98 again, so don't worry, because that's when I saved the intro, and I always forget about it. I'm sorry, people who watch our YouTube channel. I swear I know what number it is. But we're going to be reviewing, as part of our trilogy of Matrix movies, Matrix Revolutions. I know you've all been waiting for this review from the Hungover Gaming Boys. And we're going to do it. And then next week we'll tackle some of the more expanded universe stuff, such as the Animatrix, which I'm actually really excited to rewatch. I would like to watch it again.
I have never seen it.
You've never seen it? It's
this
really...
will be first time.
Let me tell you, there's one scene where you get some nice imagery of a very sexy woman. And she's also it's like a samurai fight. It's really a cool scene, actually. But it's
the lady
also
in red is now a samurai.
No, it's not. It's this Asian girl, I think. It's like they did a CG. Let's just review the Animatrix. Julien recalls the Animatrix right now. They did like some sort of it's all told in like different animation styles. So this one's like a CG fight scene that would probably be in a video game or something, and they're in the dojo that Morpheus and Neo fought in, and they're having sort of like a samurai fight between this black guy and this Asian woman. And I don't know if those characters were ever in the Matrix trilogy. I just recall she at one point it cuts off like part of her attire, and you see some things. It's great. It's really, I don't know why I really liked it. I think you know why I really liked it. But anyways, we start our podcast out every single week by asking each other, what media have you been consuming, and what did you drink last night? Vaughn, take it away.
Right. What I drank last night is much the same as what I'm having today. I had the Shell House Sparkling Hard Seltzer, Meyer lemon flavored.
Very nice.
I was drinking while hydrating, because seltzer, obviously. Picked this here up at Trader Joe's, $6 for a 6-pack. That's, I don't know if you're counting, but that's $1 a beverage.
That's a great deal.
Hard
to beat that.
And I woke up today after drinking quite a few of them and a glass of wine and no hangover. You know why? Hydrated.
Hydration. It is 95% water and 5% alcohol. So you do the math. How much are you going to be hungover? I think you're not going to be hungover at all.
Balances out.
That's the math. The facts are in.
In general, what have I been doing? I finished XCOM 2 War of the Chosen.
Nice.
And by playing XCOM 2, I kind of got a direct comparison back to Gears Tactics. And turns out XCOM 2 is way more fun. There's just such a diversity in equipment, and you feel like the soldiers that you bring along with you are more impactful with their various abilities. Really, what it comes down to in like Gears Tactics is like you have somebody that focuses on explosions, somebody that focuses on sprinting across the field with their melee combat, and then the healers kind of get shafted. Really, they either give other people the ability to do more things or just heal in Gears Tactics. But when you go to XCOM, the supports get a lot more interesting abilities, and I think that just the abilities in general in XCOM 2 feel more impactful than they ever did in Gears Tactics. You get a lot more choice in Gears Tactics, so maybe I just wasn't putting together the right systems to feel like super impactful with my soldiers, but it feels like you go down one main chain of them anyway. So like not all of the abilities are created equally in Gears Tactics. So that diversity of ability doesn't mean that you have a diversity of actual choice, and you don't feel like you're leveling them like, because they're in Gears Tactics, they're just leveled like level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. In XCOM, they go from like corporal or rookie to colonel, so you feel a little bit like you've grown just by the simple numbering system, because you don't feel like your experience grows a lot in Gears Tactics, but it does in XCOM. Again, this is reviewing kind of an older game, but I'm comparing it against Gears Tactics, which just recently came out, as a way of saying that like Gears Tactics was a great step in the right direction. I think that it is still a very fun game, but I think in comparison against the gold standard of XCOM, it doesn't match up.
I see. Well, also XCOM is a franchise that is entirely built around its strategy RPG and real-time strategy gameplay, as Gears Tactics is just a spin-off, not unlike Halo Wars, I guess, is a spin-off from Halo. So you might expect it to be a little... It's like Gears of War is trying to be the jack of all trades in terms of genres of video games, so it can't master one of them. Even though it defined the third-person shooter or cover shooter situation back in like 2006. Made by Epic Games, by the way, who makes Fortnite now.
But from what I understand, because other than Gears Tactics, I never played a Gears game, is that the Gears games, as they've gone along, have actually gotten worse in quality.
I would agree. Definitely.
What the
maybe
basic
not
gist has been.
Actually, I don't know if it's worse in quality. I think it might just be the perception of that type of game. Like, that game came out in 2006, and that's pretty much like the height of bro gamers playing Halo and Gears and being bros, and those gigantic trunks of those characters. Marcus Phoenix is like got a trunk neck. He's like such a bro.
And they maintain the same aesthetic in Gears Tactics.
So
they're like massive, and they have lots of cutscenes actually in Gears Tactics. Cool. So you get to see the characters and everything. And
it might just be
and they tie into the story, which I had to Google really quickly. Like, why the fuck do I care about this person that we just picked up?
I don't care.
It's the mother of somebody who's very important in the Gears world. These are her parents.
It's meeting. Like this is a franchise that has gone on too long, I would say. Gears and Halo. I love Halo, don't get me wrong. But I think Halo has gone on too long for it to redeem itself. I don't think Halo 5, in terms of the campaign and story and things like these, no one cares about these stories anymore, and or at least I don't. And maybe I shouldn't say that, speak for everyone, but also a whole bunch of a new generation of people. When you release games with an overarching storyline on 3 generations of consoles, right? The Xbox 360, Xbox One, and then Xbox Series X 4, when Halo 6 comes out or whatever, Halo Infinite. It's like, is anyone going to care or even know what's going on in the story anymore?
Which is, I think, what the strategy of releasing the Master Chief Collection on PC is, right? So you get a new in-ground fan base that either played one of them on a console, or people have never played them but I've heard a lot about them and want to play them again. Right. They're remastered and everything, so that you can get a refresh on your player base as well as get other people in.
But you also have
that's
to
a smart way of translating that.
I think it's smart too, and I really like the Master Chief Collection. I think it's one of the greatest collections of video games of all time. It's just in terms of compatibility between the games and and just seamless transition. Like, oh, I'm now in a multiplayer match with Halo 2. My next match is in Halo 3. If I want, or I can just go play all the campaigns if I want, or I can install either one, whatever you want. So, or at least that's how it is on PC. So
I didn't
think
realize
it's really
that's the way that the multiplayer worked. Just that you bounce around from games.
You can
just because I haven't played a lot of it.
Well, also when we played it on PC, we just played Halo Reach because that's what it was out. Now Halo, the original Halo and Halo 2, the remaster Halo 2 Anniversary Edition are out. And it's really nice because you can toggle on, I don't want to play Halo Reach at all. So you just toggle it off. And then you're just in a pool of a cesspool, if you will, of players playing Halo 2. Just dirty shit talkers and teabaggers. That's what you're that's what you're playing with.
Which is why I think it's good when a series can either do that and bring all of the games to kind of for people to relive them, or for people to have a brand new experience. And they're like the story that's contained within Gears Tactics is kind of self-contained. There's a whole bunch of other stuff, but like the basic premise was self-contained. There was a war. Now there's a locust invasion, and you're playing the first days of the locust invasion from the perspective of this squad. Mm-hmm. And so that in and of itself, A, is simple premise. B, goes back to the roots of what Gears of War was. So you get to learn, for a person who didn't understand that Gears were like soldiers or part of the COG, which was the government system, like they explained all of that. So I felt really comfortable with that. It's when it gets deeper and deeper and deeper into the game, it's just like they can't rehash that story enough. Because people who are familiar with Gears are bored with it, with rehashing that story, and people who are unfamiliar with it now don't grasp who these like niche characters are that you understand if you played the rest of the games, or at least Gears 5.
It's too long of a franchise that I feel like just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter.
I think it's a cool aesthetic.
Yeah,
and I enjoyed that unique, like the physical combat, the melee, the way that the frag grenades work. And some of the enemies were really cool, like having those big boss fights. Like I have to say that the boss fights that you experience in Gears Tactics versus the boss fights that you experienced, like I played XCOM 2 War of the Chosen, which has the additional wrinkle of the 3 Chosen which you're fighting. It feels way more impactful to fight the bosses in Gears Tactics because they're different. There's different strategies. There's different play styles. Like you have to adjust how you're doing it. Whereas when you're doing War of the Chosen, even the fights in between the 3 chosen bosses, all of those are rinse and repeat missions. They look exactly the same. The Chosen have slightly different abilities. But in general, like, the map that you're fighting on is literally the exact same map.
Okay.
So it doesn't change. So in that way, I think, like, Gears Tactics really took the concept of boss fights from Gears of War and imported them into the tactics version of the game to ensure a different play style that made it varied. And I think that's one of the things that I think that's one of the things that I think. Yes, I think a lot of things. I think I'm not gonna say that again. Gears Tactics wanted to make sure that map variability, play variability, like mission variability, and that bosses felt different than regular missions. And I think they accomplished that really well. XCOM, you feel very monotonous in like you get 3 or 4 different missions and that's it. There are only like 5 different missions in Gears Tactics, but you go through them a lot more quickly, and there are a lot of modifiers that are applied to them, which make them feel, if not fresh, then a little bit more challenging than the routine. Okay. I think that's one of the things that XCOM can work on when they're developing XCOM 3, which is, I'm sure, in the pipes down the road. Super popular franchise, and I think just having that variability in like boss fights that feel like bosses can be something that strategy games I think really tap into, because I really like the way that it was presented in Gears Tactics.
Cool. It's a great game. Go check it out. It's on PC and Xbox One, I guess.
And then in terms of other media that I consumed while I was playing a bunch of XCOM, I went through the entire series of House.
Ah, nice.
So I went through season 1 through season 8.
That is a lot. Quarantine, man. Quarantine.
I've also been watching a lot of Overwatch League, and I'm really geared up for the May tournament that's happening on...
next week, right?
Yeah, it's tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Starts 5/22, because we're recording this on 5/21.
For Memorial Day weekend.
Exactly.
Very
so
exciting.
on Friday will be the planned match with Toronto Defiant versus Vancouver Titans. I'm really excited. I think Toronto might end up being the team that I select in my upcoming series of becoming the #1 fan of all time. But we'll see.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. Very exciting. Be on the lookout for that series too. But for me, I have just some quick things. I've been playing a lot of Persona 5 Royale, 40 hours into that game. I think I'm only really halfway through, which is pretty crazy. That game is too long. I've been watching... Nikki and I finished watching what's currently out of Demon Slayer, which is an anime about slaying demons, wouldn't you know it. It's a
Is
it's
it
a
like
really
internal
cool...
demons? It's like a high school coming of age.
I wish it was Yu Yu Hakusho. No, it's about there's basically demons are in a way sort of like zombies, but they're all like, you know, they're mischievous and they're clever and they can talk and things. But if their whole demons like to eat humans, but if they can infect humans also and turn humans into demons. And there's this one ultra demon that's like the end all be all bad guy that I don't know. He's like at the end of the season, so he's not really relevant to the story, the overarching story, until you get there. But the main character, Tanjiro, is this young boy who, of course, coming of age story. I fucking love Japan. It's great. So his sister, Nezuko, gets bitten by a demon, but she doesn't exhibit... She exhibits some signs of like demon... being a demon, and she's essentially is a demon, but she won't attack any humans. So Tanjiro is on a quest to turn her back into a human because he loves his sister. So
it's like the end of Hot Fuzz when
yes.
Simon Pegg
exactly.
and Nick Frost start playing video games, and Nick Frost is tied up and chained up.
Except in a very Japanese anime way. And Tanjiro
bigger eyes.
gets trained in the art of demon slaying. He spends 2 years training himself, or getting trained by this master. He gets his sword, and he learns these techniques that turn his sword into water, and it's like very visually appealing. It's really cool when he uses these techniques. Basically, the sword blade turns into like flowing water, and it's actually really beautiful. So, and the show has pretty good music. I wouldn't say it's as good music as My Hero Academia, which we're all waiting for to come back now. Nikki and I are fucking weebs, and we're obsessed with Japanese anime now. Even the new anime. I was obsessed with, obviously, all the old shit from the 90s, but now we're getting into the new stuff, so we're hooked. And now we're screwed because the shows aren't coming out. And now we're just like, oh, I want to watch this show. But other than that, I played a little bit of Animal Crossing. I haven't really been playing Animal Crossing lately. And that's about it. We finished Demon Slayer, and I'm watching Trigun again, actually. Do you remember that show?
I do remember that.
Very
I never watched
weird
that show, but it's familiar.
Super weird. Like the English dub is not that good. Like the main character has a weird voice. in the English dub, and I don't know, it's a super weird show, but it's kind of entertaining. It's like comical and lighthearted, as you would, but gets serious at times, as all Japanese anime do. Like, you have that whimsical main character who's really talented, but when he sees someone's in danger, he gets really serious, and you know the type, like Rurouni Kenshin.
Right. Yes.
Kenshin Yamura, basically. So it's exactly that archetype of anime, but I think their idea was, what if we put an anime in the West, in the old time West, but like in America, so everyone's a gunslinger, and they're trying to. It's a fun show to watch, but it's a little weird.
Well, that's why I liked what's it called?
Cowboy Bebop.
One Star or one
Outlaw Star.
Outlaw Star.
Yeah.
Outlaw Star was great. It was like
I want to watch that again.
Outlaw Star was kind of a mix between the pirate treasure island and like the operatic space cowboy thing.
Yeah, I definitely want to watch Outlaw Star again if I can get my hands on it. I also want to watch Big O again. I hear I don't remember that show, but it was also on Toonami.
Yeah, I watched a few episodes of that one. That one's I think that one was a way more cerebral like version of that show, like of like an anime.
Okay. I'm into that.
I don't remember though.
I guess we'll probably just watch the Animatrix instead, because the other thing that I watched is The Matrix Revolutions. It's the third movie in the Matrix trilogy, and it concludes the story of the one, Neo. Or does it? That's the real question.
Does it?
Because it's actually a quadrilogy. Now I need to close the fucking window. It's not helping. Goddamn ice cream truck ruins everything that I record during the summer. It's the worst.
How is it there every time?
All the time. Because the little known secret, Yvonne, is that it is actually there all the time. Oh my god, I hate this guy.
It's just stationary. So the Matrix Revolutions, the third in the trilogy. We went over when we did the Matrix Reloaded that Matrix Reloaded and Revolutions were shot simultaneously, and they came out about 8 months apart. Matrix Revolution, as Julien previously stated, is the quote-unquote end of the trilogy. However, now that we know that Matrix 4 is being made, we can look back on it and see, like, maybe we're going to correct some things, maybe we're going to go more into things. There are some really clear dead ends that happen in Matrix Revolutions that we have no idea why they would bring back certain characters from Matrix 4. So without further ado, let's dive into Matrix Revolutions. We leave Reloaded with Neo and Bane, who has been the guy who was co-opted by Agent Smith, but then leaves the Matrix and is in the real world. So they're both kind of in a coma next to each other. Meanwhile, Roland, the captain of the Hammer, and Morpheus are looking for the Logos. Eventually, they're able to find them, and through a series of things that happen in the outside world, now we have 3 captains, 2 ships. But in the Matrix, Neo is stuck in Mobile Avenue Station.
What station is that, and where is it, Yvonne? I don't.
Well, Mobile is an anagram of limbo.
Exactly.
So we have another run-in with the our favorite French character, the Merovingian's wife, played by Monica Bellucci, who is tied to the Merovingian, who Seraph informs, and Neo eventually learns, and the employee of the Merovingian, the train master?
Train man.
Train man?
Deadass the train man.
is in charge of the not limbo space between the machine world and the Matrix. So now we have concurrent stories, and this is kind of where we jump in. What do you think of this limbo space in the Train Man?
So I thought it was pretty interesting that somehow Neo um, jacked himself into the Matrix and woke up there. I think it's an interesting um, plot device, as it were, although it's not really relevant after the first 30 minutes of the movie, or an hour. I don't know when he gets out, like an hour into the movie he gets out or something. And right. I don't think it's, I think they might have wanted to expand on that idea of there being basically they wanted to have a way to be able to have the machines are moving programs between the real world and the Matrix, and that's what the limbo station is sort of there to design or to explain, right? So
yeah,
somehow,
I imagine it like a USB storage device, right? Like
right.
You plug it into one machine, you download the information, and then you plug it into another machine and download the information to the other machine. So we're going from the machine world to the Matrix, and there are some machine codes that aren't allowed to go through traditional spaces, so they have to work out a deal with the Merovingian, who we suspect is a previous version of the Matrix, who is embodied in this effete French form.
Right, and it's also pretty cool that Neo has become sort of so connected with the machines that he is able to slip into this, like a program, he's able to slip into the limbo area and get into the Matrix without actually physically jacking in, which I think is a really cool concept. I thought that this part of the movie was actually probably the most intriguing and I think thought-provoking part of the movie. I when he meets the I guess they're Indian. I'm not exactly sure. The Indian family. That of course they're not actually Indian. They're just programs. They're machines. What am I saying? But basically, there are two programs that have a daughter program, and they're trying to get her.
Explain
into
how
the
that
Matrix.
Works.
Yeah.
One is involved in
they tried to explain
a power plant, and she is. What is she in charge of? I don't even remember.
It's not really relevant. They're two programs that were in charge of certain things, and they have a daughter program. I don't really know why or what. They're trying to have a conversation about how machines can also love, which sort of gives the idea that you're trying to the Wachowski brothers still at the time still brothers are trying to convey the point that machines can be human-like as well, and you may want to sympathize with them. Just because they're the enemy doesn't mean they can't have the common enemy, which is Agent Smith, as we learn later on in the movie. So
and the male program, the one who's talking to Neo the most, and then Sati, the younger one, but the actor who portrays Ramachandra, as he's credited at the end, never really knew that his name was ever said. I love that actor because he plays he has a role in Silicon Valley, which is quite humorous. It's great.
Is it? Yeah. I've never seen him in anything else. He does look very familiar though.
I feel like we should do a deep dive into Silicon Valley, and you should definitely watch that show because it's awesome.
And also, by the way, he is in a scene in The Matrix Reloaded, just as Neo is walking in. Neo and Morpheus and Trinity are walking in to see the Merovingian. He's being taken away by his goons in the restaurant. So that's a cool connection that if you've seen the movies 40 times like I have, you may have picked up on. I mean, it's not like it's so fucking hidden. It's pretty obvious. But it's something that you might not have remembered 8 months later when you watch this movie. So I think it's
it was specifically done that way so that, there's the idea of them planting seeds everywhere. And then, so Sati, the child there, is the product of robot love.
Sure.
And also, weirdly, it has, like, the same kind of source coding gift that Neo has. And which is strange to me, because I thought the implication was that only humans had that source coding thing, and this was the product of two programs which had the same abilities as the one to manipulate the Matrix in a large-scale way.
Right. I'm very confused and I really still don't understand Sati's character at all. I don't really.
I mean, is she in control of Sunrise Colors? Is that her programming,
her thing?
or is
Maybe.
she like the one gifted, right? Because the whole thing about the Oracle is that she has all those kids that are there because they have some connection to becoming the one, but aren't the one, obviously, because the one eventually becomes Neo. So it's interesting to me because I thought all of them were just red pills. And then Sati is a program which presumably either has this same power structure, or that's why the Oracle is taking care of her, or the programs that made the deal with the Merovingian just wanted her to be under the care of somebody that has that kind of respect for humanity that the Oracle seems to have.
Right.
Kind of peace-loving programming where the Oracle wanted to put a stop to the war, and so the parents basically give this program unto another program who works with humans.
Very confusing story. I think this is when the Matrix, an already pretty complicated topic if you want to talk about it philosophically, but I think it's a movie that the first two movies anyways they're able to get their point across in I guess layman terms, but also I think they're able to reach a broad audience with their language and all the kung fu and you're still able to get a point across that this is about questioning reality, right? And this movie I think gets, and even with the architect being involved at the end of Matrix Reloaded, I think this movie gets really way too bogged down in introducing all these new characters and concepts that it loses its focus, and I don't really like the story that's being told in this movie, and I think it moves too slowly. I don't really like the pacing of this movie either. I think it's sort of,
it does have those issues.
These are all issues it has. So I mean, we're trying to conclude a pretty epic story that has a lot of really great kung fu and action, or that's what the series has been known to come, or has been.
Those are the highlights, right?
Those are the highlights of the movie, right? The kung fu and action, and in this movie,
kind of it helped to define an entire subsequent movies where, like, Shrek had a Matrix moment, right?
Exactly.
I think Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon honestly doesn't get as much play in the West without being introduced to wire fu like it was in the Matrix.
Yeah.
Because that would come out in 2000, I think, and have even at the Oscars won a lot of awards. For a movie at the time, not Bong Joon-ho. We remember this is the year of Asia. Other than this whole COVID-19 China virus, it's the year of Asia. So I think that in Matrix and Matrix Reloaded, we get some more clearly defined rules and expectations. Like, the Matrix is all about defining the rules of the space, even though you can break the rules, right?
Yeah.
But it's about defining the rules and roles of the space. What are the agents? Who is the one? It kind of gets muddled, but gets answered by the end. Whereas in this movie, they're layering so many questions that they feel that they need to answer. Even though I don't think that we as the audience, feel that those answers needed to be concluded. Like, we don't know exactly who the Merovingian is. We don't have that information by the end of the movie.
No.
Is it important to know who the Merovingian is? No. We just have him as the foil to the character and as comic relief as a foil, right? When Trinity shows that she's willing to die and he's like, oh, bugger.
I thought that was a really cool scene, by the way.
For sure. The whole exchange was awesome because he's like, I'm so in power, etc. And then he gets his shit pushed in. It's awesome. But I think that you extrapolate, like, they don't make a one-to-one with what the Merovingian is, who the Merovingian is. Like, you could delve into that. There can be a whole lore about that. But you don't have to answer that question. Whereas when they're trying to conclude the Matrix Revolutions, they're like, we have to answer so many questions. And it leads to kind of like a really muddled direction that this movie, I think in particular, suffers from. Like, there are some sequences that are really awesome, mostly action related. I love the battle for the dock. When cool. What's her name? Niobe is piloting the hammer through the mechanical. I think those are really great scenes.
Yep.
But the final climactic battle, which I'm sure we'll get into, is complete and utter garbage.
Yes, it's a very long, drawn-out fight that I guess you would expect from Agent Smith and the one Neo. But I think I wanted to talk about, I think my favorite scene from this movie has got to be when Seraph, Morpheus, and Trinity go infiltrate the Merovingian spot, which I think is a really, it's probably the only redeemable scene for this movie. As I in terms of action, right? I mean, this is the only scene that you really get from them going into the Matrix and being cool badasses with guns and shit. Which is what you want from these movies. You want to see these really cool
the
characters
Matrix. You want to be
going
in the
into
Matrix.
the Matrix and doing cool things with sunglasses and latex on. You know, that's what you want to see. And so I thought this was probably the coolest scene. You see Morpheus a lot with his gun, his two SMGs, which are really badass guns. They were huge SMGs. See two of them. Seraph, you see some more action from Seraph. I thought it was a really cool intro where you just see Seraph walking towards the bouncers and then he just kicks their ass. This scrawny Asian dude is gonna beat up those bouncers. I'm impressed.
And it's humorous too. I think the Matrix Revolutions doesn't have as many humorous moments as we've had in the previous ones. It's very self-serious. And I think it works best when there's a little bit of humor. Why do people gravitate to like the conversations with the Merovingian? Even if he's a dumb character, they still like his charisma. I think that's what people get from it.
Right. And then we see Trinity's final moment, basically, or in terms of being a badass, where she does her little crane kick again, obviously calling back to the first action scene in the first movie.
And showing how much the technology has improved. I thought that was the whole point of that. It was like, this is what we were actually imagining when we filmed it.
Yeah, it looked a lot better, even though it was sort of like they were just doing it probably for the fans of Trinity out there, and also giving her final.
Which I hope is everybody, because
she's
great looking.
Right.
Great.
And then, of course, I always mix up the two scenes. This scene where they're going into the crowded club where the Merovingians
Club hell.
And I always mix up that scene and the scene where in Batman, I guess it's Dark Knight Rises, where he goes into the club to get basically the same character.
Isn't that the Dark Knight?
Do you remember it? Is it
Where
Dark Knight? Dark Knight Rises
or
Batman Begins? I can't remember.
It's the Dark Knight where he goes in to get
what makes
the guy
you think I want to hear you? That's what
the
he
guy
says
who replaces Falcone.
Yeah.
who is played by what's her not Sandra Bullock, the other one, who is in the Ocean's movies.
I don't.
Oh my God! Somebody help me.
Comment section
Anyway.
below. Yeah, so I always mix up those two scenes, and I was thinking to myself, is the Merovingian gonna say that to Persephone? Or is that her name in the movie? Because that's, I don't know why it mixes up, but obviously they're very similar scenes. That's probably why. And I think it's probably one of the coolest scenes in the movie is that hold up that it's actually pretty tense, with the tense violins playing in the background, and Trinity obviously holds the gun to the Merovingian's head and is really set on saving Neo, and I think it really is an important scene, and of course then they fucking get him out or whatever, and then I think the movie goes downhill from there. I think they had something leading up to that point, and it could have been a really cool movie.
What do you think is the biggest flaw that happens there then?
What?
What do you think is the biggest flaw?
After that point, I think... I mean, okay, maybe it goes downhill. Yeah, I like all the scenes with Niobe. I think those are really... They gave her a lot more screen time, and I think that was important. I think she's a really cool character. But I really think that it gets bogged down on just why is this fight happening, and like purpose. That's what purpose, Mr. Anderson. I'm really confused as to what Agent Smith's purpose is. I'm sure he is confused as well, and I think it sort of loses, like, Neo sort of doesn't become all powerful, which I like. I actually like that a lot. And he doesn't just
fall
become
into the Peter Petrelli trap of Hero Season 1.
Yeah, the one. He's the one, but he doesn't just become, Superman and save the day. I thought that was really good, but I just don't think there's anything.
Well, the main protagonist, right, is Agent Smith, right?
Yeah.
Let's go back to that for a second. Yeah. Well, if you want to make this point, then we can go back to it.
No, I don't know what my point is. Let's go with that.
Well, Agent Smith, right, being the main antagonist, we don't truly understand what his motivations are. But I think that's partially explainable in this way, is that Agent Smith thinks that he is replicating himself into everybody in the Matrix and destroying the Matrix that way, right? And then is able to exfiltrate however he will. Because he then, like an attack where if everybody, in stocks, right? If you own 51% of the stocks, you make decisions for the company, etc.
Yeah.
And this way, if Agent Smith takes control of all of the bodies in the Matrix, then he can kind of control the machine world by cutting off all of the oxygen to their batteries or whatever, So yeah. I think there's that, but he's only thinking of it as him replicating into others, like a virus. But viruses mutate. They get affected by their whole replicating process. And I think one of the things that we see is the Oracle accepts the fate that is coming to her by getting absorbed by Smith. And by doing so is able to affect Agent Smith in the final battle. And I think that there's a conversation to be had there about the replicating process and what that does in regards to Agent Smith. Mm-hmm. So I think even though he thinks he's like taking over the world, every person that he's absorbing and every program that he's absorbing apparently is a reflective process and is changing some of him, right? So that he's looking into the mirror only seeing Agent Smith, but every time he absorbs somebody else, who Agent Smith is a changing definition. Whereas he is the multitude, he is Legion. Neo is the one, he's the singular, and thus he has his own individual identity and individual choices that are unaffected by the multitude of various constraints and propulsion devices that are encouraging Agent Smith, which is why I think that Agent Smith is Agent Smith's kind of end goal is muddled, because I think that he himself thinks he has a clear purpose, but is in fact muddled by the fact that he's absorbing so many people's thoughts.
Right. He's becoming too powerful for his own good, in a way, I guess, or he's sort of spreading too fast, maybe, before he realized what he wanted, I guess, in a way.
But I think that even if he has a clear purpose, the more, like if you have a movement, right, and the end goal of that movement is like, we want liberation, but then you get so many people inside of that movement, they're like, well, does that liberation include this subset of people and that subset of people? Like when in the 60s, like the Black is Beautiful movement, Black is Beautiful was initially defined, or the premise of it was like, black men are beautiful, right? That was the, like, promoting the black male as a respectable figure, etc. So gaining the politics of respectability, but also like empowerment of so that they can vote and different things. But then black women, then the gay men, like they all had different voices that they felt were being squashed in order to achieve this one goal, which is an important goal. But the more voices that you have supporting that, the more bleed there can be in what is the final verdict or what is the final success. And so I think that so many people's voices in his head, literally in his head, can affect like what his purpose is, to the point where he can't understand the choice that lies in front of him, like the Oracle was describing. Once he obtained the Oracle's power, he wasn't able to understand the choice that came in front of him, whereas Neo, being self-centered and within himself and able to kind of meditate through, could start to understand what those choices were.
I guess maybe I don't like where the movie goes is because it does fracture into those two storylines. So, I mean, it fractures into the storyline you're just explaining about Neo and Agent Smith, and then it also fractures into the storyline where Zion's being attacked. So two things are happening at the same time, and they don't really... They are indeed connected, but you're only really aware of that connection at the end. It's not... You're just trying to focus on two different things. Like, why is Neo trying to go to the mainframe? Is it to end the war? I don't even know. Like, how is he going to do that just by showing up? We don't really understand that. And
I think Smith is so misunderstood as an antagonist. Yeah. Like, he's not clearly defined. The machines are so clearly defined in Matrix 1 and Matrix 2.
Right.
The architect saying, we will destroy Zion, right?
Yeah.
And so you understand the antagonist, and you're like, okay, I'll stick with that. Like, that mind frame I can totally understand. But then what Agent Smith is trying to do, it's like, when you have two quarterbacks, you actually have none. It's like he's this big, huge presence that has completely made the fact that now they can't actually go into the Matrix. So they've cut out a portion of the like plot that we really enjoy, like the kung fu and all that shit, and have imposed on that instead of that these strange like robots and whatever that are just shooting at CGI. Yeah. So it's taken away the cool kung fu aspect and replaced it with stuff that we have had no attachment to. So in that regard, that's I totally understand, and I still think that Matrix Revolutions Agent Smith is a really weak antagonist.
Yes, and it's hilarious that they had to make so many what's it called? I mean, obviously a lot of them are CG, but they had to have so many doubles for Agent Smith, and they had like prosthetics on their face just to look like him. It's a whole thing in that movie. They did so many of them. But and of course then they touched it up with the CG. But also I wanted to talk about just a side note, I didn't really understand how Neo got out of the Matrix. He was laying down on that bed, and then when he comes out of the Matrix, he's already jacked in. Do you remember that at all? This is when they save him from the train man. Obviously, they have a kiss. You know, they're reunited, and then he wakes. When they take him out, he's being unjacked from the Matrix.
I have no idea how to explain that.
It's not like he just wakes up.
Other than the fact that perhaps they cut out just like for time the part where in order to jack out of the Matrix, he couldn't just like self wake up. They had to put his body into the rigging so that they could unhook him.
And by the way, this movie
they took him off Wi-Fi, they put him on Ethernet.
And that's how it was, exactly. This movie has a shorter runtime than Matrix Reloaded, just so you know.
It does not feel that way.
It does not at all. This movie drags on a lot. And the Matrix Reloaded I thought was
huge set pieces.
Awesome.
Yeah, the Matrix Reloaded has probably, I think, the best fight scene of the entire franchise with the highway fight.
Probably. Yeah, oh, definitely. That's a great scene. So after that we move on to the fracturing of the two storylines that split up. So Morpheus Trinity and Neo leave the whole crew just to go to the machine mainframe because Neo's seen
the Logos.
The three, and they take a ship and everyone gets mad, but it's all right because Niobe gives him his ship, and then Niobe pilots a larger ship, and she's able to pilot a mechanical line. No one's ever been able to do this. I've done it before.
Explain to me why their sewer system has mechanical lines or whatever. Like, what the fuck is happening?
Anyways, I think that sort of leads to one of probably the I don't want to say climax in terms of action, because obviously that's supposed to be the final fight between Agent Smith and Neo, but I think it's one of the high points of the movie is them barely making it through the closing gate or the opening gates and then hitting the EMP in order to hand over
versus the fight with Bane where Neo becomes blinded. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Right. That's
just a tremendous.
So annoying. What a fight. Oh, I had to commemorate though. The actor who plays Bane has a great impersonation of Agent Smith.
It's awesome.
His really
Hugo Weaving is really great.
It's pretty spot on. It's like, come on, Neo, how do you not know? It's obviously him.
It's just like the audience is in 3 seconds. If you hadn't watched The Matrix Reloaded, but you only watched The Matrix Evolutions, you go, why is this guy doing a Hugo Weaving impression? And then the person next to you shuts you up because you're in the movie theater. But then later you understand that.
Anyways,
it's great. But why he has to get blinded, I don't understand. It's not like Jesus was blinded. But Jesus was never blinded.
Yeah, I don't know.
He had the crown of thorns, but that's not the same thing.
But the imagery, they somehow in their artist rendition, they had Neo with a blindfold over, and it looked really cool. So they had to come up with a way to get him blinded, and it made sense. He can see the Matrix, he can see the machines, but he can't see anything else because that's his only purpose, and it's all about purpose. Yvonne, this movie's about purpose.
This movie is about the lack of choice, whereas all the other movies are about choices.
The second movie is about choice, and the first movie is about reality. It's about reality. I don't know.
Everything is about perception and choice.
Perception. I know. That's the whole point. But anyways,
if you're blind, you can still see things. That's what they're saying.
We basically get an idea of how Zion is set up to protect itself because they're forced to. Every man, woman, and child able to hold a gun. If it were up to me.
Thank God it's not up to you, Locke, idiot. Also, why do they not have extra EMPs? They're like, there's no way that they'll breach the city. But if they do, we've got this one EMP on reserve. No, we don't have that. Instead, we have this army of super cool machine
Robots.
gun robots.
Yeah.
I don't understand what is the premise? It's gotta be easier to manufacture EMPs than these robots.
If the EMP goes off, it shuts everything down.
You just turn it off before the
Trump
EMP
part.
goes on. That's why the ships aren't like completely destroyed every time they use them.
I don't know how it works, man. I don't know how electromagnetic pulses work.
We've been left without the EMP.
So basically,
Thank
the
you, Ron.
machines make it breach the walls of Zion, and they're focused down by an ungodly amount of bullets from every. I can't believe they had so many bullets, and it's a really
Seriously,
think
the amount of time it would
pretty
take to
beautiful
manufacture those bullets versus an EMP.
Well,
Just the amount
anyways.
of gunpowder.
So dumb. I mean, it's a dumb fight, but I think
Why don't
it's
they
a
have
pretty
huge laser
beautiful
cannons?
fight.
Why are they machine guns?
Because
Why
it's,
didn't they-
it's ragtag guerrilla fighting. All right, this is all they got, Yvonne. This is
Why
the
don't they have
last
rocket
defense.
launchers?
They do have rocket launchers.
Not on the machines. The machines are only machine guns.
Anyways,
These are the
it
robots
sort
that
of
take
shows
care of us.
the fluidity of the machines and their hive mind tactics. I think it's a pretty beautiful scene in terms of CG accomplishments. I think it's a really cool fight.
And
There's a
introduces
lot
my
of-
personal favorite character in the entire Matrix, Captain
The
Mifune.
Oh yeah, Captain Mifune. He's a real interesting guy. He has got a lisp, and it's really hard to understand him. So we don't really know what he's saying all the time. We can't figure out for the life of us. Every time he's trying to change directions and tell everyone to shoot, he says "knuckle up" or "buckle up" or something like that.
I
then
swear
he
he's
just
saying
yells.
knuckle up. But the whole, how is this guy still okay? This battle sequence is about what, 20 minutes in real life time
Yeah,
between them
maybe.
breaching and
Oh, yeah,
and,
yeah.
and when he dies.
Yeah.
Have you ever had to yell for an extended amount of time?
Yes.
The way
No,
that
I
this guy
haven't
is
had
yelling,
to, but I tried.
there's no way he has a voice 10 minutes in.
It's so
There's
he's
no
so
way.
into it. He's so into it. Yeah. So it's really a weird fight. They have these, I think, pretty interesting mechs for the Matrix. I think it's they're pretty well designed in terms of intricacies. I think they're really cool looking. But so I don't think they're lame or anything. I think they're pretty cool. And I guess basically I think it's a funny job they give the kid. And I can't believe this is the only way they have for reloading these mechs, but it's like very tense that they have to just send the kid out with a wheelbarrow full of ammo, and he has to somehow survive going like 100 meters
entire
towards
length.
the entire length of that bridge. He has to survive in an epic battle. It's pretty
with
crazy.
a perfect path, by the way. He has to go
Yeah.
left and right, but there's nothing that he can trip over.
Even though they show him tripping.
My
Anyways,
question,
it's
my question about this, probably unanswerable question. You're telling me that because he starts off, they call the first guy, and you see the rules of the engagement with the first wheelbarrow guy go out there and run. You're telling me that between like the first minute of the reload and when Captain Mifune, whatever his name is, needs a reload, there's like 15 minutes of movie. You're telling me that this kid has not been needed for a reload in that 15 minutes?
yeah, I know exactly. These guys are not letting go of the trigger.
There is
And then
no
it's like,
trigger discipline.
Reload. That's like, reload. It's pretty.
Also, if they're not
epic.
letting go of the trigger, why does his one gun go offline before the other gun? It's just like he's shooting
know.
both at the same time every single time.
I don't
Whatever.
know. It's we're just nitpicking here. It's not even really relevant.
I
What
love
is
nitpicking
relevant,
this
though,
shit.
is that Niobe is piling into the The whole point is they
She's
have the
got a
plot
big
device of getting everyone
ass.
home. We gotta make it. It's gonna be epic. Drive it in. And I think it's a really cool scene where they finally get it in. They get it in. Get the logos into the
It's the
Zion
hammer.
mainframe. It's the hammer. Sorry. It's the larger ship, right? The hammer breaks through the, and this is the miniature that they used, right? I'm
Yeah.
guessing. Right. So it's not all CG. They use some practical effects and miniatures to show the hammer breaking through Zion's front gates, which are massive for whatever
And
reason.
I honestly think that this is the reason that this doesn't look like total, utter garbage. Like, there are totally moments in this fight, like with the massive hordes of the
Yeah.
Sentinels, which they look CG, right?
Of
but
course.
they don't look horrid CG.
Yeah. The
and
lighting is really nice, I think.
Yeah, and the entire battle looks pretty good. There are a few moments
It
that
holds
look
up.
obviously bad, but
Yeah.
I think overall I would still give this whole sequence, if you cut it straight together, like a B plus.
Yeah.
I still think it looks good.
In 2020, B plus in 2020.
I still think it looks pretty good. It is tense and holds a lot of interest for me personally.
Yeah.
I love the captain. I never finished the training program either. Why are you captain? No, unanswerable questions. They're just promoting people left and right. That Commander Locke, this is his third week on the job, you know? But I think I really love this. I love this battle. I think it's really cool. I think it's
it's
nowhere
one of the
close to
highlights
on the
of movie.
scale of like the Lord of the Rings, like the Battle of Helm's Deep or the Battle for Minas Tirith. I think those are much better versions of this like all-out onslaught. But I still think it holds up. And in terms of sci-fi all-out onslaughts, it's pretty up there.
Yeah, it's an exciting scene. But then it leads into Neo making it to the Matrix, right? So I guess he's in the Matrix before, and he goes talk to the Oracle, which I guess we never talked about the last time he sees the Oracle. Right? He did see the Oracle in this movie?
Yeah, he sees her.
Yeah.
Because
Morpheus
she's
sees
the
her.
new actress.
Right. They had to explain it. She had to make a choice. It's never explained what that choice is, but I guess it's just there because, obviously, unfortunately, the previous Oracle's actress died in between filming these movies, which is really sad. Really sad.
Yeah.
I actually wonder maybe they wouldn't have changed it at all. I wonder how much her death obviously affected it a lot. The Oracle's a huge character in the movie, a really important character anyways. And
I think for the
just
most part,
wonder,
her dialogue would have been mostly the same, I think.
probably, yeah.
I think
It would have been delivered differently.
Yeah, Gloria Foster was much more charismatic in the way she delivered the lines.
Yeah, but I don't think that this. I don't even know her name. I'm sorry. I don't. The Oracle in this
Mary
in the
Alice.
Revolutions is not. It's not like she did a poor job of being the Oracle. I thought she was fine.
No. I just think the Oracle gets muddled in this one, and it's hard to tell whether it's the acting or whether it's the writing.
Right. Exactly.
I tend to lean on the writing. I think Mary Alice is doing a fine job.
Yeah, these are all
kind of being
professional
like,
actors.
I have to get used to being the new shell.
Exactly. I mean, it's not really relevant. I don't think her part in the movie. She just says this war is going to end one way or another like 3 times, and then that's it. So, basically, Neo gets back to the Matrix, and he's instantly thrown into a fight with Agent Smith for the health of humanity, whether or not the machines live. The Matrix, is it going to be a thing after this fight? Everything relies on who wins this fight. So,
Honestly, this fight would have been better if they entered the Matrix and it looked like Dragon Ball Z, like just a 2D cartoon. It would have
been
looked
better, yeah.
so much better.
They had, I don't know how many gallons of water they wasted in this scene. Hopefully they recycled that water or purified it. Oh God. It's raining, which I thought was cool imagery. I think it was supposed to obviously be represent, or at least look like the Matrix as it's represented in code, and it's just pouring rain, and that's supposed to be the Matrix, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
And obviously everything's super green at this point. It's just like out of control, tinted green. They went over the board with that. I think that was also totally fine, but I think it, like the fight where Neo fights Agent Smith again, you have another intro sequence where Agent Smith does all the talking and sets the scene, and then they just fight. And I think the only redeemable parts about this fight are when the initial part of the fight where they're fighting on the ground, and then the next part of the fight where they're inside that building. I thought those were the coolest in terms of imagery and in terms of being able to focus on what's happening, which is what this series is really good at. Being able to give you a focus point in a very fast-paced kung fu fight. I think
once they got inside of the
perfected.
building, it was significantly better because it was literally grounded.
Yes.
But then they did the whole Superman thing again, and it became intolerable again to watch.
It's a cool concept, but it's too dark and green, and everything's the same color, so you can't even see what's happening.
But then, like, the punch to Agent Smith's face where it transitions to full CG, and it just looks like a CG character, and, like, it just takes you out of it.
Right, that didn't hold up. I'm sure that looked really good. I think I saw this movie in theaters. I'm sure I was like,
good then either. I think everybody was like, well, that's CG. That kind of looks stupid. But I guess it's cool because it's new.
Anyways, they had to give it one last epic punch, and then somehow Neo destroys Agent Smith. I'm not really sure how.
He goes inside of him, and then he puts the source code in him.
The same way he frees Agent Smith, I guess, is the same way he destroys him in this scene, I guess.
And the way that he gets destroyed with the light coming out from behind his sunglasses, I'm sure they're like, this is going to be so cool. It looks so dumb.
It looked really bad. This movie sort of ends very poorly. And killing off two of the coolest characters in the movie, right? This is the end of Neo. Neo dies.
But he doesn't.
Allegedly.
There's no guarantee, because I rewatched this with the mindset of Matrix 4 being there.
Yeah.
There's no just the same way that after he goes into Agent Smith and he's able to come out and be reborn, there's no like definitive result of us not necessarily not seeing Neo come out.
Yeah.
And it just looks like the machines carry him away, but there's no indication of his lifelessness. Like he's still jacked in.
Right.
So in point of fact, it could be kind of what the end should have been, in terms of like he gets reinjected into the Matrix with the source code, and then the Matrix gets to restart for its 7th iteration.
That's possible. I mean, he is, but he's unjacked though, and then he's carried off. Do you remember that scene?
No, he's not unjacked. He's still jacked in when he's carried off.
Just in the same way that
I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure they take the thing out of his head.
I was looking for it specifically and I didn't see it.
That's a good point. If he was just dragged by his head. I
think all of the wires were still in him, and that's how they moved him.
Okay.
Is that he was like held up, kind of like being stationary on the cross.
I mean, either way, your theory probably holds up. He's probably being re-injected into the Matrix, for Matrix 4, that is. and he is going to be the one again, but he might have to be found. It might be in a way like that. I think that would be pretty cool. I think that would be an interesting storyline, coming back and doing it all again.
Yeah.
And him relearning his powers, maybe, or
not even having those
maybe
powers.
he'll be able to remember. I think that would be interesting. Or maybe he'll actually, that would be even more interesting if he thought he was the one the whole time, and it turns into some crazy homeless man, and he's like just telling stories about him being the one and shit like that. I think that could be an interesting storyline. We'll see with The Matrix 4, but it is sort of left ambiguous, as Yvonne says, what happens to Neo. So I guess maybe they were planning Matrix 4 this entire time.
I don't know why they would be. Feels
I
like
don't.
they had a poor conclusion already.
They had a trilogy, which is the right number.
Oh no, he does become
movies.
Unjacked at the end.
Okay.
I missed it.
Well, either way, I mean, he can be jacked in without being jacked in, so there's no rules anymore, because
gloves are off.
The Revolutions. So basically, we're sort of, the Matrix is reset after Agent Smith has been eradicated, sort of like a computer would be if you reinstalled Windows. So I think that's sort of what they were going for there. And then they show the black cat again, Deja Vu, a reference to the first Matrix. I thought that was a nice nod, but it sort of just really represented the scrubbing clean of the Matrix, and you're sort of left with the Architect, the Oracle, and Sati, which for some reason she's there. I don't really know.
Yep.
And they have a really weird conversation. Oh, all the people are going to be freed. That's this
Who
is the
choose
conclusion
to be,
of the movie.
Right? They'll be
I thought
free.
it's just freeing everyone.
I think he again, maybe
She
I
says,
totally misunderstood the ending of this movie.
well, I did too. I think she asked, what about all the people who are still jacked in, or I'm paraphrasing, and then he says, obviously they'll all be freed. That's what he says, and then that's it. I don't get it. That's just it. Okay, so all the humans are freed, and then the machines don't need the humans anymore? There are levels of survival that we're willing to go to. I'm very confused as to... And then Sati made a nice sunset.
No, she says, what about the ones that want to get out? And he says, they'll be freed.
Okay.
So I still think that it's going to be maintained to be a choice to be a red pill or blue pill, kind of.
Okay.
So
and
those people like...
Oh, that's
what's his
interesting.
name? Cyrus.
Cypher.
Can maintain their Matrix habitation.
That's actually an interesting ending then. I didn't know that was the ending. I thought maybe... I was sort of never knew the ending of this movie. But that's actually kind of interesting. The machines because Neo saved the Matrix, or I guess prevented Agent Smith from getting out of control and destroying the machine mainframe, the machines are willing to give up some of their farm of humans just to be nice to humans, and they're trying to coexist.
Right. I mean, is it determined in machine coding that once they strike a bargain, they can't go back on that bargain?
I don't know. They never explained that.
But like, if you were the machines, you're like, we destroyed the Matrix. Neo reset it. We made this peaceful pact agreement, and then Neo goes and destroys Agent Smith, and then they reset the Matrix, and then they're like, so we're just gonna destroy Zion and just go back on our word, because who's gonna stop us now?
Ain't nobody gonna stop you. That's it, kid. How can it be the one? He's dead. I don't know.
Yeah,
he's gonna pop.
Maybe machines are more truthful than humans, and that is one of their saving graces.
This movie set out to explain everything that needed explaining, and they explained nothing at the end, and just made it a little more confusing than it already was. So I think that's the real problem, maybe, with this movie, other than a lot of things.
The fact that it ends in a truce instead of one side dominating over the other, it kind of feels unsatisfactory.
Yeah.
Like, the only person who gets defeated is Smith, who is an ill-defined antagonist to begin with. And then the feeling is like, well, the machines can just crush the humans anytime they want now. So there's no real check to the machines that Neo created. So his sacrifice is basically, like, I don't know, however long it takes for somebody to fuck up.
Yeah, we'll see how that ends up in Matrix 4 with no Trinity, who was killed. We forgot to talk about Trinity's horrible death in this movie.
I think she's still supposed to be there in Matrix 4. I think she signed on.
Yeah, I know she signed on, and I'm very confused.
But maybe she's only going to be there as, like, flashbacks or whatever. Could be.
That's possible. That would be weird and disappointing. Maybe. Depends how it's done. But yeah, so Trinity, a huge main character, actually ends up dying in a very unflattering way. Her final scene, I don't know, we forgot to talk about this. I feel like I just wanted to bring it up because if we don't,
it's because the flight of the logos is so boring. So
yeah,
stupid.
I know.
Look, they see the sun.
So
it
beautiful.
was blinding.
Basically, I don't know why they chose this angle. It's so bad. It just made her look like an alien. Oh my god.
But that's because she is an alien in the Machine City.
That's maybe what. Whoa. That's it. That's it. Wrap it up. We're done here. Basically, we're kind of disappointed with this movie overall, and we're still looking forward to Matrix 4, just because we love.
It's a curiosity of nothing else.
Yeah.
What the fuck are they gonna do with this story?
We'll find out.
It's just the same way that John Wick is still continuing, even though I have no idea why it's still continuing. But it's a great series. I love all the John Wick movies. The big exception being that John Wick 3 significantly better than John Wick 2.
Yes.
It goes John Wick, John Wick 3, John Wick 2.
Yeah, probably. I'd agree with that. Either way, they're all pretty awesome movies, I'd have to say. So.
Yeah. Just to compare apples and oranges with Keanu Reeves movies. Yeah, trilogies,
of course. What are we gonna? Oh, they will
both
be.
of them.
Not yet. But what do you want to move on to next, Yvonne? What is our next podcast?
Our next one, we're gonna go into Animatrix, and
definitely.
I think from there, if we have time, we could discuss what we think is going to be in Matrix 4, like what room they have to delve into story further with Matrix 4.
Yeah.
And then it's it. Our Matrix is concluded.
Yeah, but
until the movie actually comes out.
Oh god, yeah. We'll also try to do a Enter the Matrix drunk play, if we can even get through that game. God, I know how to emulate it on my computer. Allegedly emulation. So I'll set that up.
I still have the original game discs in Buffalo, I think, at my childhood home.
I have it too, at my mom's place.
But I have no idea if it would actually work.
Here. No, that's a lie. I have it right here.
I'd have to do a virtual PC, I think.
You need a GameCube to run that disc. Do I have it right here? I know I have it.
No, I had it for PC.
Oh, it was a PC game?
Yeah.
Huh.
It was multi-platform.
Huh. Well, yeah, I just thought it was just on consoles, though.
No, I played it on PC.
Huh? I played it on GameCube. Because, of course, I did. Well, I don't have it here.
It's
I'm
like
not trusting
$15 to
people.
get it used.
We don't need to buy it though. It would be way more hassle to play it legally than it would. Anyways, I'll buy
runs
it
on
and then play it
XP.
illegally. How about that? How about that, everyone? That's
Let's
fair.
not do
Oh, does it
that.
run on XP?
Yeah, it runs on XP.
Oh, okay. So maybe it'll run on.
And Windows ME.
Is it on Steam?
No, I already checked.
Fine. Whatever. Anyways, we'll figure that out. I think that'll actually be pretty fun. Maybe we can get through the game. You think we could beat that game?
I think we could beat that game. It's pretty easy.
you're thinking pretty highly of us. Anyways, Yvonne, thank you so much for doing this podcast with me and the audience. I guess I don't know. We will be back.
Thank you
with
for
the
having me,
Animatrix.
audience.
You're welcome. I'm the audience, of course, because I'm the only one who watches this. Anyways, thank you so much, everyone. We love you all. We'll catch you next time for the Animatrix review.
Bye.
Goodbye.